I started the broadcast, so we're good to go.
Apparently, you have to get permission to do live stream like more than 24 hours in advance, and I tried to get on there yesterday, but not in enough time.
Yeah. So yeah, we're good to go. Do you have the thing pulled up? The group leader stuff?
Yep, I have it. Also, before we, because aren't we also doing the doohickey as well, or is that a different group?
I think it's the same group. It looks pretty intense. It's like 8 pages.
I know, right? So I was gonna say, can we also talk about that after this is done?
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. I don't think we have to talk about it a lot. Just kind of. Anyway, never mind. All right. It says, ask one person at a time to explain one of each of the 3 diversity paradigms. Describe making difference matter, assimilation, differentiation, and integration. Explain the paradigm.
Okay, I can go first. I did like the ones that I got was the discrimination and fairness paradigm, and it's like the most common in companies these days. Basically, it's like there's a code of conduct that's obvious, and there's clear standards as to like what is allowed, like in terms of like diversity and like inclusion efforts, and what is not, and like what kind of comments are acceptable and which ones aren't. So it's very black and white. And they tend to be like colorblind and gender blind, where like they don't really, they try to make it as though color and gender don't exist, and it kind of leaves people feeling like just like a cog in a wheel, and just very like just part of like a machine, part of a system.
I like the way they said like the military. It was the example I think they used. Everybody's the same.
Yep.
Differences don't matter.
Yep. Do I do all 3?
No, no, that's fine. Does somebody want to go over? So I think that's the assimilation, the differentiation.
I think there's the different paradigms, or the discrimination one, the access one, and then the emerging paradigm. That's the ones that were listed in the case, I think. Are they giving you the solution?
Nope. No, these are just the questions.
Oh.
No, they didn't give any solutions. I thought it was the one where it was they bring people in of diversity just so that they have it in with that under you know what I'm saying? Like they bring in Hispanic so that they can get a Hispanic perspective, but they put them only on the Hispanic problems.
Yeah, that's the access and legitimacy paradigm, and like they basically just like they gave the example in the case where like they would like have like Europeans that were trained in America, and then like they'd send those European trained like in America and universities to like Europe, and they wouldn't really learn the nuances of like what they were doing differently. They just knew it worked. So like they just kind of like exploited like the diversity. It's kind of just makes business sense to them because they gain foreign business.
I agree. I thought it was just more of them like separating it, just separating out things. They didn't really, they hired them on, but they didn't become part of the group. They just became a different group to be represented.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the third one, integration, which really makes the most business sense, is where they see that they embrace the differences.
Mm-hmm.
And they go from there. Is that what you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah, they would work with everything instead of like the one we just talked about that Darren was mentioning. That was the one I focused on the most as well, because I was late at night and I was getting tired. And I was going, what are you talking about? And then I realized what was going on. And it's no different in any business. If you get one language group working in a country, like you lose track of how it works there, and only the people that are working there know what's going on. So you don't get the whole company involved or the management involved, I guess. You just end up with separate groups all over the place.
Well, I don't think you get the different perspectives. I really thought about the quorum of the 12. Like, isn't that what they really talk about? How they all come from different backgrounds and that they worked well as a team together?
And that's where the integration comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Is working like the quorum of the 12. You got all these different people, but instead of them just working in their own areas, then they're all working together to learn from each other's areas.
Yes.
So they're all involved.
They see the differences as a strength instead of as just a difference.
Yes.
Okay, number 2. Give an example of an organization you have observed or worked for that shows some aspects of a paradigm you choose. Explain whether you think the paradigm was effective for that organization. And it says to assign a different one to each of you. So I will let you take whichever one you prefer. It says to think of an example and decide whether it worked or not.
I have an example of how it didn't work.
That works.
I actually used to work in a nursing home. So, you have a wide variety of different people, and too many people thought they were more head honcho than anybody else. And in a nursing home, you have to kind of all work together as a team to make anything work. No one worked together as a team. No one wanted to help each other out. And when you have a lot of different backgrounds of some who speak Spanish and some don't, where you need that help to come in so you can communicate with each other better, no one wanted to work together as a team to make it more efficient. And I do know that nursing home is struggling now, and I have left. The company.
So were they trying to were they trying to be diverse, meet the EEOC requirements?
I think some people were and some weren't. The management kind of just shrugged their shoulders off and said, new employees is what's going to make this place work, instead of actually wanting to come in and work on the paradigm inside the building as it was then.
I got you. So they did have some diversity, but they chose to keep the two sides didn't work together.
Yeah.
They were more like the separation, the middle one.
Yeah.
The differentiation.
Yes.
Thank you. Does anybody have one for the assimilation? That's the one I see the most, I think, assimilation. I don't know how to say that.
Assimilation.
Thank you.
I think that's true, just because I feel like the job that I have now, it almost, or that I just got, I went to talk to the other people that got hired this year to their firm, and it seemed like they weren't the greatest students, but because of two were visible minorities and there's a lady there, and I had several other friends that were just white males that had better GPAs than them, and they had social skills, they weren't socially awkward, but it seemed because of their diversity inclusion efforts and wanting to have certain demographics in their company, they hired people that weren't necessarily the best candidates, rather they were just like visible minorities or like, yeah, or like gender, like underrepresented or whatever.
So how do you think that strengthened or weakened them?
I mean, I don't know. Like, they obviously have way more experience than I do, but like, if their purpose is to like have the best people and like have the best employees, I think they failed. But if it like, it depends who they're catering to. Like, if those clients are going to be facing like, kind of like where it talked about like making business sense, if they were facing like other people of like visible minorities or like of the same gender, then maybe like they succeeded in their efforts. I don't really know though.
Well, to me, it sounds like from what you said, like they probably shot themselves in the foot. Instead of having a strong team based on skills, they had a weak team based on quotas.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Paul? Do you have any examples of the integration one? I gotta be honest, I tried to apply this to my job. I work in the ski industry, and I live in Colorado. Outside of a few internationals that, go to our outlying resorts, we're all white. I tried to figure out how to make this work, but I was like, I don't know how we would improve our company.
Is that just inside the management portion, or is that at the resorts?
No, it's company wide. I mean, the majority, skiing is not a poor man's sport. And so we don't have as much diversity. And plus Colorado we have some Hispanics, but we're predominantly a white state. Or maybe I just live in my own bubble, which could be the case too.
No, you're probably hitting it right on the mark. I mean, I haven't been very far in many places, but for work I was down in Colorado for a few days, and yeah, I didn't notice that it was as diverse as where I am right now, but I was probably in my own little bubble too. So with me, most of my experience is with the church, doing work for them, and they're not as diverse here in Canada because there's.
Oh, you're Canadian?
Yeah, I'm in Edmonton.
Oh, cool. I'm from Calgary.
I know. That's why I was giving you a hard time about playing hockey. And about your hat being turned around.
Well, you're from the frozen north, so.
That's right. Yeah, we went right from the frozen north to the baked north this year. We didn't even get spring.
Yeah, it's hot.
Wait, how hot is it there?
Like 30 degrees Celsius, so like 90.
That's not hot.
It is for Canada.
It is for us.
That's too hot for me.
Come to like 100-degree weather. 120.
Well, how would you like negative 40-degree weather? Like, same question. Like,
I can't. I left Utah because I don't deal with cold and snow anymore. So there's no way I'd survive.
It's the opposite of Arizona. You go from your air-conditioned house to your air-conditioned car to your air-conditioned office. We go from our heated house to our heated car to our heated office. Just in reverse.
I think I'm going to stay in the middle here, where we get to play outside. And
I feel discriminated against based on my nationality.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, so in that case, since we're both from Canada, Darren, let's go with Carlene's request. And how does that fit into which paradigm?
Yeah.
I'm guessing you guys are more white than we are.
Skin wise, yes, But nationality-wise,
feel
or
like
not?
I prefer not to disclose my race, my color.
Let me guess, you're black.
Yeah, I identify as a visible minority.
Oh dear. Maybe we shouldn't record this conversation.
Yeah, maybe not.
It actually, as much as it could sound like it's going the wrong way, it's not when it comes to the lesson that we have, because Darren's not wrong. In where we are, we at one point were the visible majority, and now we are actually the visible minority.
I notice that every time I go home, I am like, there's less and less like white people. And like, it's not racist. Like, they're all super nice. They're like all Filipino, but like, they're super nice. It's just different. Like, it doesn't feel like home as much anymore.
No, and that's where I'm going to head with this diversity thing, is that most of the companies, which are actually U.S. based, that are here, have adopted the laws that we have and allowed it and made it possible for them to bring over multiple thousands of individuals from many other cultures. Mostly in the last 4 years, it's been mostly Filipinos because of the way the laws work and the reduced cost to bring those families here. And part of the reason for that is they want to be diverse because they want to get into that country as well. But they also want to be able to give those people the training at the lowest possible cost. And the laws for minorities education makes it possible to bring them over at a ridiculously low cost. And of course, many companies take advantage of that and do some things that I don't agree with. But and mostly I don't agree with it because it affects those families in a negative way. And sometimes it turns out for them good, and sometimes it doesn't. But that's one of those situations where you kind of wonder if they're making it so much of that one culture and that one language that they're making it hard for anyone else in the area to be in that business and be effective and take advantage of learning from that business. And that's more in, I guess that would still fit in the discrimination paradigm. Mostly, I guess. But I don't know. I got such a headache from reading the assignment this week that I read through it 2 or 3 times and I still got the same headache. And I even printed it off in a PDF form, I pulled it off the internet instead of the one that we had, because I couldn't read the columns without going cross-eyed.
Sounds like a long week.
Yeah, I don't know. How did you guys think everything went with this assignment?
I'm going to be honest. I work in payroll very, very closely with HR, so I find it interesting. So it catches my interest.
I'm just interested how I can leverage this class so I can get like a better salary and more benefits. Because I'm not planning on being like a HR person.
Don't be scared to ask for other things. That's what I've learned working so closely with HR. Like, even if they can't do an increase in pay, sometimes they'll give you an extra week of vacation to kind of offset, like if they really want to. They'll be like, hey, can I have another week of vacation? I'm just saying.
Yeah, or like a better 401k match or something. I don't know.
Well, they either have it or they don't. It's highly regulated, so they either have it or they don't.
Oh, okay.
Well, they do. Yeah, in the States they do. For Canada, they have a lot more flexibility for matching retirement plans. So, I mean, a lot of
I actually
companies have a max, but
I have a job offer in the States, actually. They give me a work visa and everything.
Wow, way to go.
nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What part of the
Yeah.
States?
So it's going to be in Oklahoma. So like Calgary is really oil and gas intensive.
Yeah.
And so I'm working in Oklahoma on ConocoPhillips and Phillips 66.
So you got to do your 2 years before you can go everywhere else.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So I do 2 years there, and then they said they'll put me in any other office.
Yep. I have a lot of I used to go to the student ward for the school of mines. All my friends are engineers, so I get it.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
It's either Texas, Oklahoma, or there was one other place they'd always end up.
Louisiana,
Maybe.
California.
No. All right, you guys want to move on?
Sure.
Yep.
Sorry. So Melody Hobson says colorblindness is dangerous. Do you agree? Is she making a point similar to the one made by the authors of Making Differences Matter? She made me think. I have to say, she's the one that really, maybe because it wasn't reading 30 pages, but she's the one who made me think, you know. Are we looking at people for their strengths, like the Quorum of the 12, or are we just separating it just to meet quotas?
I really enjoyed listening to her. I never really thought I was color blindness because I don't look at someone and say, oh, their skin is this color, you know. We all have our different areas that we excel in, and if we work together, we're going to excel in our company. But I can really see how being color blindness can really affect anybody, because if we're color blindness, we might not look at that other person and be like, oh, you know, their strengths are because of this, because of their background that they've had. So.
It's kind of like the gender issue, you know, like people are like, well, you can't be like a girl. But I'm like, but I am a girl and I like being a girl, and girls have certain strengths that boys don't, and boys have certain strengths that girls don't. I don't see there's anything wrong with embracing it. I think color is kind of the same concept. You know, they have different backgrounds and different places they come from. If we acknowledge it and embrace it, it'll change the world, I think.
Yeah.
All right. What's next?
Is color blindness the same thing as the discrimination and the fairness/assimilation paradigm?
Yeah, I would say so.
I agree.
Yep.
Why do the authors of Making Differences Matter believe the integration/learning and effectiveness paradigm is the best approach to diversity in the workplace? Do you agree? Explain why or why not. I think this whole conversation has been we agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been putting it that direction the entire time, I think.
But if you want, we can redefine it. All right, part 2. What does Hobson mean about being color brave? What do you think color braveness would look like in a workplace? Is it similar to the integration paradigm? Or is she talking about something different? I think it's similar to the integration one.
I would say it's I would go along with the integration just due to the fact that being color brave instead of color blind is pulling everybody together as a group, and you're not ignoring or trying to not you're not trying to not see the differences or the color differences or the nationality differences or anything. You're trying to embrace them and bring them together to see how each of them can help the other.
You're recognizing their differences and you're saying it's a strength. Please bring it to the table.
Yes. Just like the quorum of the 12. They see each other's differences. They know each of them is different, but they also ask each other, how can our differences become better as a group? How can we use those differences to make ourselves better?
I agree. Let's see. It says, number 2 says, the authors of Making Differences Matter explain that some managers are more comfortable addressing problems with outright discrimination than subtle, man, I can't talk today, than whatever that is, diversity problems. Subtle, that's what I'm saying. Subtle diversity problems. Have you ever been in a team, group, or organization where one person's ideas or approach to doing work was hard for the rest of the group to understand because of the difference in background, experience, gender, race, or other something else? That's not English. Other something else. Okay. So let's see. So let's take it one step at a time. Is it easier to deal with outright discrimination more than subtle diversity problems?
For most people, I think it is.
I would agree. It's hard to name the elephant in the room.
Yeah, I think most managers would rather address it and not like address it as a discrimination issue when really it might not be, but that's their comfort zone. That's where they go with it. So they address it as an outright discrimination because that's how they see it. They're not realizing it doesn't need to be that. It can be other things. It's just that they don't understand how to address it.
I see it as kind of like having a boy that likes you, but he won't ask you out. So you can't say, no, I don't, I'm not interested until he does. Until then, it's just awkward. That's a terrible example, but you get the gist.
Yeah, I hate it when boys want to ask me out and I want them to ask me out.
Well, it's probably because you're Canadian, you know? That's why. I could totally see
Wait, are
it.
you saying that Canadians are gay?
No, I'm just saying everybody wants to date a Canadian.
No, true, I'm exotic.
So different, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good choice of words. So different.
All right, let's see. Have you guys ever been on a team, group, or organization where one person's ideas or approach was hard for the rest because of their difference in background, experience, or gender? I'm sure I have. I can't think of one, but
Have I ever been what? Sorry, discriminated against?
No. Have you ever been in a situation where because someone has a different background than the rest of the group, it made it difficult?
Oh yeah, like on my mission when I had companions that were foreign, like, and they couldn't speak English very well, it was hard to communicate. Like that was a cultural difference or just like a difference that made it difficult.
So communication?
Yeah, just communication and just like even culturally, like they would do things that were like just different. Like I don't know, like what's an example? Like I had one companion who didn't want to shake people's hands because like they didn't back in India. It was just different.
That's interesting. That's actually a good example. Because in other cultures, you know, that can be considered an insult.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually a lot more common than some people think because I spent most of my life building houses, and a lot of them were for what everyone calls a foreigner, but for either Pakistani descent or Indian descent or anything. And it took me a long time to get used to shaking their hand because they give you the dead fish handshake.
Yeah.
They and no one would explain it. Everyone would be uncomfortable. You go to a meeting or you're dealing with customers and no one would, like you said before, address the elephant in the room. So I finally did. I said, "Why do you shake hands differently?" He says, "Well, we don't grip like Canadians or Americans do." I said, "I know that." I said, "I want to know why." And he said, "Because it's a sign of power." He says, "We don't do that because it makes the other person feel like we're above them."
And where were they from?
Any of the Eastern countries. I've had it done from people from Asia. I've had it done from Albania, Netherlands, mostly India.
Good,
And
interesting.
they're all close to the same, and they don't want to do it because it's a sign that you're asserting when you give a good grip handshake like we do here. That's a sign of completion of a handshake, whereas there it's a sign of you're trying to take over. You're overpowering the other person. Like, I'm stronger than you, this is how it is. So they don't shake hands that way. You go to shake their hand and it's like grabbing a wet noodle.
I don't think I like that.
It is kind of weird. It's not always like a wet noodle, I guess. It's more of a dainty handshake. It's almost like they just hold their hand out and it's just like you just want to shake a piece of paper and that's it. You don't want your handshake to be aggressive or overbearing. So
That's interesting.
They consider it a form of submission so that everyone in the room is in the same agreement. Whereas for us, a good stiff handshake is
a connection.
That's our same result. We want everybody in agreement, but that's not the way it is with other cultures.
Yeah, it's saying that you're engaged and connected as opposed to the other saying you're not interested. All right, number 3. What could have been done in that situation to gain from the diversity of the group? So, like, for example, like with the companions, what could you have gained from the differences, or was there anything to gain? I think that's you, Darren.
Sorry, one more time.
Well, it's saying from the situations that were shared, what could have been gained from the diversity of the group? And you gave the example of the companions.
Oh yeah. So what could have been gained for me? Well, we were in a high like I served my mission in Toronto, and there was a lot of Indians in like Brampton where I was. Like the nickname for the city of Brampton is Bangladesh because there's like so many like brown people, like people from India and Pakistan. And so like he was able to like converse with them in like their own language. And like he was able to talk to them like and talk about like they don't understand like why we have like one God, and they don't understand the need for a redeemer. And so he was able to explain it to them in a way like that helped them make sense of it, because like it's completely foreign to people that are like Hindu or Buddhist. The fact that we need a redeemer or someone to save us from our sins. So that was really helpful.
So it was able to strengthen the connection and to translate, is what I'm hearing. Translate the differences.
Yeah.
How about you, Paul? How did yours?
For me, it gave me a greater understanding of their culture, and it made me, instead of being normally in a North American business situation, you're going to be aggressive to get what you want. And it turned me into more of a submissive. So I would kind of come from the backside and work my way into the group, being more submissive and not trying to take control of the situation. Let them say and do what they want to get their point across, and then try to bring that point back into the business situation that we were in, and then I guess merge it with what I was trying to do. So I guess in a way it was a good way to humble yourself and realize that you're not the big cheese in the room. They want everybody in the room to be on the same plane.
Well, it sounds like it would make, I mean, not only would it humble you, but it would also strengthen your relationship with them, which would also strengthen your customer relations. If you met them on their terms, you know, they're more likely to come back to you if they trust you or relate to you.
Yep.
And then do you have an example, Candace, that you would like to share?
I'm thinking, I know I've worked for a married couple who's Indian and they're doctors, and it was extremely hard to work for them because first, there's a communication barrier because you can't understand them all that well because of their accent. But then the way that they practice their medicine, that it's not the way that, you know, we're taught, because they learn first over where they came from, and then they come here and learn school more. They really do think they're a lot higher than you and smarter than you, and it made it real difficult to be there to want to work for them.
So it destroyed the relationship. It worked against their favor because they didn't embrace differences.
Yeah, they did embrace differences. One thing I know, that I work in a home health agency right now, and one of the best things that I love about this is we're all different, diversities, everything, you know, but we're all willing to come together and learn from each other. So when you're willing to learn from each other, you kind of learn each other's backgrounds, and you kind of gain your knowledge of what they go through on a daily basis versus what you've gone through. In my office right now, I actually work with a young lady who is African American, and each day I'm learning something new that I've never known before, you know, how some of them are the way they are. A lot of nurses are from Africa because it is one of the easiest things for them to become and support their families, especially when they come to America and they send money back, is becoming an RN. So you kind of learn and you grow when you learn about their backgrounds and their diversities and what they've gone through to accomplish where they're at now. So I think when you kind of open yourself up to learn what their beliefs and everything is, you kind of help make a more rounded person of yourself, because you don't look at them and say, oh, I'm better than you. We're each there learning from each other.
Thank you. That makes sense. It sounds like it just strengthens it and it destroys it when you don't.
Yeah.
It says many companies still do have problems with outright discrimination. Have you ever worked for or observed a company where there are outright discrimination problems? What was the experience like?
I have, and that's because I'm a female. Because I'm going to school to become a healthcare administrator. So I want to run my own nursing home. And I've been told too many times that because I'm a female, I'm not going to make a good administrator because I'm not mean enough. So the staff won't.
I have seen some mean women. That has nothing to do with it.
I know. And I'm like, wait. So that makes it really difficult because you're like, wait, because I'm female, people don't think I'm going to succeed as much as a male will.
Really? Wow. That's I am really sorry.
Yeah. That's why I don't work there anymore.
Unfortunately, I've been in the ski industry for a very long time, and everybody's happy. They're like, dude, what's up? So I guess I'm lucky. I mean, our biggest one is when they wanted to put a sign up on the door saying hiring females, and we're like, you can't do that. Because they decided they didn't have enough females. But fortunately, I don't really have that problem. Anybody
I'm
else?
really sorry. I have another group meeting at 8:30. How many more questions do we have, or do we want to like talk about the other project as well, like the doohickeys
The
case?
doohickey one.
Okay, so we still have 2 more sections, so that's anyways, as far as the doohickey goes, if you want, we can all look it over. I was just gonna see if maybe we can set another time to meet, like on Tuesday or something.
Tuesdays are hard for me. I have to get my daughter back and forth to neutral.
Oh, gotcha.
We can even email each other.
Yeah.
That'll
And
work.
then,
Yeah, I'll make a Google Doc and we can just start working on it. Like she gave us a sample one that we need to like copy, so like it shouldn't be too bad.
I don't know. I just saw like 8 pages. You know, it's supposed to be like 4 typed pages or something. I'm like, oh, good
So
heavens,
we
that's gonna
just
be
each have to do 2 pages.
okay.
So I'll split up. We can split up the sections and then just like take the sections that we want and then work on them and then revise it together if we want.
Okay.
so we each take 2 pages.
Yeah, because there's 8 pages total.
Okay, and don't forget that it's double spaced. It's not single spaced like that project sheet is.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I just hate writing. I suck at it. Okay, yeah, that works for me.
All right, so I'll do that tonight, and I'll send out a link to like a Google Doc. But yeah, we can keep going. I just have to switch at 8:30, so we have like 12 minutes.
Oh, gotcha. Or if you want, you can just put us on mute. You know what I mean? Just mute yourself when you need to switch over.
Oh, he'll need to use his Hangouts link to do his
No,
other
that's
video.
okay. Someone else can do the. Someone else is doing the link.
Oh, okay.
I know. Why don't we just make it quick? All right. So.
Hey, dude.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay. So John Skipper. So this is what it says. What did John Skipper, ESPN president, mean when he answered yes to the question, do we hire a minority or the person most qualified? Do you believe this is a right approach to hiring for diversity? I think he was trying to say that neither one is like better than the other.
Wouldn't you want to hire someone who's more fit for the company?
Well, I think that because they're saying we either look at minorities or we look at the ones that will get the job done, and he's saying minorities can get the job done. That's how I read it. So I like the fact that they had a pool of everything, and then they took the best from the pool.
Yeah. I think what we need to look at too, well, what he was probably looking at as well, is that there's, with that diversity, is sometimes the right person for the job needs to be someone in a diverse situation to make it work. So it's plus you got to look at your future, not just how you're trying to get the job done right at the moment.
I agree. All right, next one. Elder Ballard describes the church council. Does a ward council he described the following integration paradigm explain? Yes, because he was hitting on them for not asking for advice from everybody instead of just delegating. It says you need to put it out there, get feedback, and then delegate. Do you guys agree?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
The question was, as an Elder Ballard describes a church council, does the ward council he described follow the integration paradigm? You guys are hearing the feedback, aren't you?
A little bit, yeah. But it follows the integration paradigm, because you got to get the information from people and use that to create a better result.
Okay. I agree. Let's see.
Yeah.
What are the advantages to a bishop of counseling with the elders quorum president, relief study president, primary president, and others?
I think that's the same thing. It gives you the chance to get the bishop's chance to get other people's perspectives on things, and not just the 2 or 3 people that he's in contact with constantly. If he does it this way, he can get information from groups that aren't with him all the time, so that he can see how other areas of his organization are operating.
I agree. All right, wrap up. What the Making Differences Matter article assumes that there is some value in a company in promoting a diverse workforce. Do you agree? What are the advantages? Oh, we've already gone over this like 100 times.
Yep.
What approach would you take to diversity as a manager? Well, I think we all agree integration is one we would strive for. Whether we accomplish it or not is a different matter, but all right. And then I think that's it.
Perfect.
Look, 5 minutes to spare.
So I can